Archons. It's time to reveal decks that have been played. That's right. I'm diving into Dark Tidings real deep, and this past Friday I got to play IRL Dark Tidings, as you may have seen on Twitter, with my friend Shane, aka Sierra Alpha, and we played these two decks to start with. We did 4 decks. These are the first two. And they were both spicy, and we decided to do the adaptive sealed blind, which we did with these two, and then if one deck was victorious, that would go against the next set of decks, and then then play the next 2 decks we had, and then the winners of both of those pairs played against each other. I think these two were the strongest period, and my guy Shane beat me pretty much the whole night until we went into the finals round, so that was humbling. But we got to see some really cool decks, and I'm going to start off with the deck that I played first, which was Malfunctional Elecware. Yes, Malfunctional Elecware. Great name. And this one has some cool cards in it. Let's just do it actually this way. So in it is Academy Training, Howling Pit, Brain Eater, Positron Bolt, Australius Seaborg, Edai, Old Egad times 3, Science, Submersive Principle, Talmage, Steelheart, and then it has a Maverick Flying Spectre, which is pretty cool. The Orpheal sees chosen procedurally generated / chase cards, which is really nice. Trial by Water, which lets you to reset the tide until the start of your next turn. Players cannot raise the tide, which is kind of neat. And then it's got Double Shoulder Armor, Bulwark, Cleansing Wave, Heal or Harm, Martial Ewer, Sir Bever, Strange Ordination, Encounter Suit, Agenda Sapedia, Sabotage Mission, Karkar, Valmart, Double Light of the Archons, Double Blaster, Operative Espeon. I feel like there's like a Pokemon nod here. Techno Babble, and then Unity or Discord. So, in case you didn't notice, there's a lot of upgrades in this. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 upgrades in the deck, which is a lot, especially when you have Light of the Archons. It can get pretty wild. Why do I like this deck? Well, this deck's really cool because it has the Howling Pit, obviously. It's got a little bit of everything in each house. Science is nice. Well, not really, because there's not a lot of stuff in here. There's only 2. There's only 2 other ones. So Science doesn't work that great in here, which is fine. It's like, yeah, so it's going to do something, maybe nothing. It doesn't really matter. It's a little bit anti-synergy. But you do have some nice stuff here that I like in the old EGADs are really nice for creating that ward situations. There's been a few different ways where that's come into play, which is really nice. Fun note, Talmage Steelheart. You gotta check your opponent's list to see if they have Ambermancy, because if they do, you may want to be careful with how you play this card so that they can't possibly pop your +1 counters and burst to Ember that way. So keep that in mind. Obviously, the Maverick Flying Spectre is just cool as can be. The colors work so well in the Sanctum lineup too. Really think this card's a neat card, except for the fact it can be destroyed so easily. So I think the only way it's not destroyed is if your opponent knows they're not, like if they're in check, you just take 3 chains and stay in check type of thing. I love the Orpheals, both of them, Lance Chosen and Seas Chosen. I think they're Orpheal and Orpheon. I think they're such interesting cards because of how they're affected with the tide being high or low, and they both do powerful things. This one is really cool, actually. Trial by Water. Reset the tide until the start of your next turn. Players cannot raise the tide. This can be very, very powerful depending on how your opponent's deck goes. Shoulder armors are super good, especially with Light of the Archons. As Shane said, we can make some. We made some raid bosses using this. Usually, Lieutenant Karkar was a raid boss, so it's basically like they Voltron up, and it is just bonkers how big they are, especially with this. Like we had, I think if you get 1 Light of the Archon, they get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 armor. Yeah, so that's pretty wild. 7 armor. And yeah, it's pretty wild. No, I'm lying. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 armor. Yeah, it's 8 armor, and then it has like the same thing in power added to it. So it just is some bonker stuff, and that's not even counting like the blasters in here as well. Cleansing Wave, there are various ways to do a little bit of damage here and there in the deck, like Positron Bolts, things like that, which can make Cleansing Waves go off. Healer Harm, really cool. Fully heal a creature, gain 1 or ready and fight with a friendly creature. Again, these cards are just fantastic. The proposition you have with these choice action cards, I think, is a very smart design choice, and I'm hoping this is a thing that we see moving forward. You don't get pips with these, though. That's the interesting thing. You do not get pips, but you get a choice, and you get versatility, which is really nice, especially when you can't deck build. Play Fight, Raise the Tide. I mean, any way you can do that is something that you look for in a deck, it seems, when you're going in Dark Tidings for various different reasons. Not just when you're going DT versus DT, but I think that it has a purpose for your own deck as well, so it's really nice. Not to mention you have Strange Ordination, which means you kind of need that. Sir Bever, just some taunt action there. Also a fun creature to Voltron out, because then you just make it like so much armor that like never dies almost, except for direct removal. Countersuit, classic. Agent Sapedia, really cool. Stunning a creature, dealing 1 damage, Cleansing Wave, all that fun stuff. Again, a little Ember Control, Karkar, Raid Boss, Valmart, another person that's not a bad candidate to Voltron up and just protect so strongly, so you have that consistent Ember Control of +3, because that's no slouch. And then again, double Light Archons, and then the Officer's Blaster, so good. And it just stays, so it's a sticking card, which is really nice unless you bounce. So again, creating just some beast creatures through upgrades here. It's really cool. Operative Espeon, after a player raises the tide during their turn, they may use a creature they control. Great card. Technobabble, stun a creature and each of its neighbors that share a house with it. Love it. And then of course Unity and Discord. I think it's easy to see why this card is amazing, because of the 4 upgrades here that exist within just Star Alliance. You can do some sort of transporter platform nonsense here, and I mean, if you're doing it on Valmart, even better. Oh, excuse me. Whoa, what's wrong with me here? Even with Valmart, because then you can make their keys cost +6, and sometimes there's really strong burst inside of this set where I've had moments where I have like 12 Ember, and that's a great way to utilize someone basically having to forge 12 Ember. So that's what I like about this. The Academy training can be really nice to make something go to Logos. It can also just be nice to throw on a Logos creature like this one, where you're already reaping, wanting to reap with it. Submersive Principle is actually very, very strong and very handy. I do like that card. What other combos aside from Voltroning up? That's really the thing this deck does. It's just really cool, and you can just kind of wreck face, because you don't even have to put it on just one creature. You can do it on one with like most of these, and then throw down the Unity or Discord, return it, and then spread it out, so you get some cool stuff, especially with the shoulder armors. So this deck can do some cool bursty stuff. It has some tricks for sure. I really like this deck actually quite a bit. It's definitely up there for me in cool decks. Now, what do we have up next is the Untidy Keeper of the Moor. Or sorry, it's Kepler. Untidy Kepler. Don't know what that is. And let's see what this one has. This one is particularly spicy, and I think it's going to take some time to really understand what makes this deck such a hotness, because I think it will be a hotness. It is a combo deck for days. So it's got Library Card, Howling Pit, Brain Eater, Data Forge, Eureka, Forgive or Forget, Isotronic Core. I haven't seen this really before. It's each friendly creature gains hazardous 1. Bilge Warden ×2, Final Analysis, okay? Are you starting to see the things here? And then Talmage Steelheart. And then here it's got Agent Sapedia, Mutagenous Researcher with its own damage pip, Selective Preservation, Double Karkar, Light of the Archons, Operative Espeon, Rocketeer Triska, which is super cool, Science Officer Kincan, Triple Unity or Discord, which is nice with the... There is only one here, the Light of the Archons, but I mean, you can still do some cool things, especially with Rocketeer Triska in play. You can bounce the creature and constantly get to ready it, which is nice. And then we go on to Untamed, which, like, honestly, the logos and Untamed in this are really bonkers. Ritual of Life, Ambermancy, Old Patty with a Pip, Ritual of Balance, assert dominance with a capture, and for those who don't know, it says, for the remainder of the turn, a friendly creature gains skirmish, ready and fight with that creature, which is really nice. Deepwater Gruin, Key Frog, Mookling, Milobi, Way of the Pixie, and Youngest Bear with a draw pip. Now, what's really nice in this is the Embermancy is not actually taking effect here, but you can pull it off with your Talmage Steelheart, which is really fun times. The other thing is Ritual of Life puts in a lot of work with this deck, actually, because there are a number of targets you can want to do. Is you want to bring back Deepwater Gruins, you can pop your Key Frogs with it, you can bring back Mooklings, bring back Youngest Bear for the draw pip. There's so many candidates in here that you want to put back into your hand and play that it just provides a nice flexibility. What else is there? The other thing that's really cool about this is the going into logos, where this is where things get a little bit bonkers. So if you can get Library card out with Howling Pit, really nice. And then you have Data Forge, and this is where things go wild, because I think you can potentially pull off Data Forge pretty nicely with this. Because you have Howling Pit, because you have 2 Forgive and Forgets to put things into your archive and get things back, like Final Analysis, which also could make your Data Forge go off, which is pretty sweet. So there's just so many ways that you can really maybe get off Data Forge and have some wild turns, including a wild library access turn. So I think Data Forge is very possible in this deck, and that's what I like about it. And I really want to explore this deck a lot. Like, this deck is going to get reps. Turn 1 Eureka is always fun. Now here's something I want to post to you guys, because I'm not sure how this would work. So Bilge Warden, because there's 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken, I believe with Espeon, you would get to use a creature each time you use those. So you go 1 time, Raise the Tide to you, play the other one, it raises the tide to your opponent, because it just says after a player raises a tide during their turn, they may use a creature they control. So I'd be raising the tide for my opponent, and I still believe I get the effect of Espeon on my turn, even though my opponent is the one that got the tide high. So I think that's such a really amazing use of Espeon and Bilge Warden, which I'm not gonna lie, I literally realized the combo like maybe 2 minutes before I started making this video, which is really neat, especially with some of the stuff in here that you may want to use. Youngest Bear is always a house cheat candidate, because if you do your things properly, you can reap with, if you're in logos, for example, you can reap with Starlines. If you're in Starline, it doesn't make a difference. You can basically just use this to reap and get 2 Ember instead of 1. I'm starting to grow on Youngest Bear, starting to grow on me a lot more. So yeah, that's the combos in this deck. I think it is pretty bonkers, this one, but they both are really, really good. Like, there are situations where one won and the other didn't. They actually both beat each other a couple times. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on Untidy Kepler of the Moor, and also on Malfunctioning Elecware. Which deck would you rather have, Malfunctioning Elecware or Untidy Kepler of the Moor? I think they both provide different possibilities and fun tricks to be had. It's just a matter of kind of what's your preference, because yeah, I don't know. This was a hard decision for me. I actually don't know which one I would. I think I prefer to play this one, but this one I think is going to be more interesting over time. So these are the first 2 decks we played on the on our Friday night IRL blind Dark Tidings. Tune in tomorrow for the other 2 decks that we played with. And yeah, as always, folks, please do like and subscribe and share this to people. Let them know that I'm doing these videos. I really appreciate it. And don't forget that Thursdays is my new stream date on YouTube, and I'm also going to be doing Saturdays as well. Details in the comments. As always, folks, may your Ember never be stolen and your keys forged promptly. Have a good one.